Hello, and welcome to the resume experience section where we are going to cover all of the important information that should be held in your experience section. Now, the reason we have a presentation just focused on this particular part of your resume is because it is the most important part of your resume. Showing your work and, more importantly, your skills that you gained while working in the different jobs that you've held really help to sell you to an employer. And so you need to be spending the most amount of time on this particular section in particular. Now, many different people have different things, different labels that they like to refer to this section as, and any of these on your screen are appropriate. So employment history, work history, however you want to title that, totally okay. It's personal preference. One thing I will mention is that some folks like to pull out major specific work so that they can have their internship listed at the top of their resume. This is totally appropriate if you wanted to do, for instance, like an accounting experience section and then a work experience or employment history section. That could totally be something that you do as well. Now, when you are listing a job that you have held, you need to make sure that you include the following. You need the name of the company. You need the location where you held that position. So that would be, for instance, if you worked at Jimmy John's here in Kalamazoo, you need to put Jimmy John's Kalamazoo. And then you put the dates of employment. Now this is where you give the range of when you worked there. So you give your starting month and year and then your ending month and year, typically. And then you also want to make sure to include your job title when you're listing your job. Now, an important part of listing your employment history is making sure that you have it in the right order. So you want to start with whatever is the most present position that you've held, whether you're currently in it or you ended it most recently. And then you go back to your oldest position that you were in. And so we call that reverse chronological order. So you just want to make sure that you have that in that order. The reason for this is just standard practice. It shows kind of what you're doing most currently and allows people to kind of have an idea of who you are, where you're working, and then it goes into where you've been. So now we're getting into the most important part of your employment section. Yes, we need to know where you worked, but we really want to know what skills did you gain while you were working there. So for each job that you have, you should have 3 to 5 statements that are bulleted under each experience section. For students in the business college, we recommend that you do bullet points. It's pretty standard practice for our fields, and that's why we recommend the bullet point format. We want to make sure that you are using active verbs to start out every single bullet point. So this could be communicated, led, facilitated. These words start us off with something that is active and shows off something about you. You also want to be thinking about transferable skills that you learned in each of the positions that you've worked. And something that's really important to us in the Zane Career Center is for you to recognize that all jobs and positions that you've worked in have value. A lot of times we can look down on maybe our retail experience or our food service experience and say, well, whatever, that was just that job. No, there are so many skills that you gain from waiting tables, from working in retail, and they have so much value to employers, and they honestly love when they see that experience on your resume. So you have to provide the context of what the value was of serving in that position. And you need to, when you're formatting all of your bullet points, to remember, I did learn some really great skills that are going to help me long term in my life. Now, when you're putting together your skills section, and you're looking at building up your resume, we want you to take a critical eye at all of your bullet points under your experience section and make sure that you have most, if not all, of the career readiness competencies included in those. Now, the career readiness competencies, these are based off of employer feedback to colleges and universities saying, we want your students, when they come into their first job right out of college, we want them to have these 8 skills. And it's super important that you include these skills in some way in your resume. So the critical thinking, problem solving, absolutely 100% should be in there. Communication, teamwork, collaboration also should be in there. Leadership as well. The others, if you have them, totally a bonus. I would say the top 4 are the biggest and most important to make sure that you have covered in your resume. And then if you have the others, that means you're pretty stellar and you've gotten some really great experience. But in some way, you're going to see that most employers are if not all employers, are going to want each of these skills in their employees. It's so much more important than knowing how to do things that are teachable. But to really have experience in critical thinking and problem solving on your own, having experience communicating with other people and working with other people is really, really helpful to employers. Now, so what happens a lot of times when I look at resumes of current students is they do what we call task statements. And so you'll see this here on your screen as create posters for events. That is totally not interesting. It doesn't tell me anything about you as an employee and how you approach to creating posters. I have no idea. You haven't given me any information. This is basically out of a job description. However, if you turn that into design and distribute promotional flyers using Adobe InDesign and Photoshop, you've just amped that statement up tenfold. You're telling me the programs for which you use to create those posters and that you designed and also went through the process of getting them out to the public as well, which are super helpful and just makes you sound more impressive. Now let's do another one. So instead of helping customers with orders, this is something that we typically see in a resume for somebody that's done like food service. Instead, you can say demonstrated knowledge of current products and pricing in order to assist customers and guarantee return business. How much better does that sound? It tells you so much more about who you are as a person, how you view your work, the importance of repeat customers, the importance of knowing your products so that you can best assist your customers. Those things go really far in helping employers understand the type of employee that you are. So that is a quick overview of the employment section. Remember, the most important thing is showing off your skills and showing off all that you've learned in the roles that you've taken on through your employment history. Now we're here for you if you need some help developing some statements and want us to really work with you on those bullet points. So feel free to give us an email or give us a call. We're always here.